Okay, I am going to do some free live readings today. And I know it's sort of at an odd time. It's earlier in the day than I usually am on, but I had a little bit of time and I thought, why not? I'll just pop right on and do some reading. So I've got a deck here. Let me burn some Palo Santo. And we'll see if anybody shows up on a weekday afternoon. Hi, Sanja. I'm just getting some Palo Santo burning. And I've got my deck here. I'm using today the Squid Cake Marseille Tarot. This is a mass market deck, but one that I really like. It's very fun and kind of whimsical. And it's a small size, so I can fit lots of cards on the table, which can be very useful. All right, we've also got Joa Pedro Costa. All right, and Sanja. So those are the first two on the list. And we'll see how busy it gets today, but I'm kind of in the mood to do some 9-card portrait spreads or box spreads. So depending on the questions that get asked, because I think the spread needs to fit the question. So I'll try to incorporate at least some of those in today. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so I have already riffle shuffled these a bit, but why don't we start with Joao Pedro Costa? You were the first to request a reading, so if you'd like to post your question, I will read for you. And welcome to anyone who might be joining. My name is Will of the Hermit's Lantern Tarot, and I'm doing some free live readings today using the Squid Cake Marseille Tarot. I've got a cup of tea here, which I think is currently too hot to drink. And I've burned some Palo Santo, and I've shuffled my cards. Hi, B. So, Joa, if you've got your question, go ahead and post it. Oh, you posted the question. I'm sorry, I don't see it. just see the request to be added to the list. Maybe try posting it again. Hi, Sunshine Pattern. Yeah, I'll add you to the list too. And so the way the list works, just for anyone who might be new here, after you request a reading, I will put you on the list, and then I go in the order of first come, first served. So whoever requested first, my goal is to read in the order that you request readings. Sometimes that's why I ask that you request in all caps, just because then it's easier for me to scan through the chat and figure out whose turn it is. And then if it's your turn and I call you and you're not here, I might have to skip over you. And then if there's time, I can return once I've finished the list. Okay, so Joa, I'm not seeing your question, so I'm going to move on to Sanja. And so Sanja, if you'd like to post your question, I can read for you. Okay. Sanji wants to know, who will be my next future partner? What kind of person will they be? You are an Aquarius, and Sanji asked, how am I? I'm great, thank you. I'm doing really well. I've been busy, which is why I've tried 2 or 3 times this week to get on and do a live stream, and one thing after the other has prevented me, but I have a little pocket of time right now, and so that's why I'm here, and I'm glad to be here. Okay, so we're asking about Sanja's next future partner. All right, Sanja's next future partner. Okay. I think I'm going to go ahead and lay out 9 cards to get us started. Okay. So 10 coins, strength, the sun. This is a very auspicious beginning. Okay, the tower. Four of coins. Three of coins. King of cups. Seven of cups. And the star. Okay, so what kind of person are we talking about here? These 9 cards are aiming to describe a particular kind of person. And of course, the first thing I would look at is any court cards that show up in the spread, since we're trying to describe an actual person. And of course, it's the King of Cups. So that's where my eye is drawn to first, the King of Cups, cards that surround them, and particularly the card that the King of Cups is looking at. And so, I read the cards without recourse to gender. So the fact that this card is a king doesn't necessarily say anything about this person's gender, although it might. And Sandra, you would know better than I the gender of this person. But the King of Cups tends to be someone who is very uh, interested in having mastery and control or power even over their emotional life and over their relationships. So they're the kind of person who can be very creative and artistic and in touch with their feelings, but maybe also has learned over time that they have to hide a little bit their true feelings and their true self from society as a whole, right? This is something I think particularly in, well, I'm from the United States, so in United States culture, but certainly elsewhere too, this is something that is often taught to young boys and to men, right? Like, don't don't cry and don't don't show your feelings, right? Be a man, that kind of thing. So there can be a kind of being in touch with one's feelings, but also recognizing perhaps that, um, and maybe resenting a little bit the fact that this person doesn't feel like they can be their true, authentic self publicly, right? And so seeing that alongside this card looking at the Seven of Cups makes me think that they might sort of have a little bit of heartache going on. I think of sevens as a big challenge and like a major obstacle. And with the cups, it has to do with relationships or the heart, right? Feelings, emotions. And so this looks like it could be someone who's struggling a little bit at the moment to understand their relationships and their emotions. Now, that said, there's quite a lot of coins in the spread. We've got the 10, the 4, and the 3. And so this is someone who is likely quite successful in terms of their security and stability and resources and things like money, right? And so that we do like to see that. However, when I read a spread like this, I read left to right, past, present, future, or depending on the context, these could be slightly different. But so I see the 10 of coins down to 4 coins, down to 3 coins. And so there's a clear through line here of like 10 of coins is totally successful and has long-term stability and happiness. But over time, that stability maintains itself, but there's maybe not so much extra to go around, right? Because we go pretty quickly from 10 to 4. And then the 4 down to 3 suggests actually that stability may be passing away. Like, so in other words, this is someone who may have financial or security of some other kind, right? Like in terms of their home or job, things like that. But maybe in the moment when you meet them, they might have sort of fallen a little bit on hard times. Like they might be having more um, issues with resources in the moment than they've had in the past, right? Like things were super great, but maybe because of whatever this tower situation was, they're still doing okay. 4 coins is good. That's still stable. But then seeing the 3 coins coming, it's like, ooh, we need that 4th coin to be on even ground, on solid footing, right? So that would be the second thing I would say. The stuff about emotional challenge and needing to feel control over one's emotions, number one. And then number two, there's something going on with their job or their income, their housing situation that's making things a little rocky for them at the moment. Now, that said, other than this tower card, we've got 3 other major arcana: Strength, the Sun, and the Star. And these are beautiful to see in a reading about what or who your next partner might be, right? And so Strength, of course, indicates, it's obvious this is strength of character, I think, more than physically, right? So someone who, even though they might have, as we all do, desires or urges which they need to overcome, this is someone who can overcome them, someone who can control themselves, right? And who has a kind of virtue of strength, which is great, of strength of character. And then the sun, I immediately think here, this is someone who's a very good friend, right? I think in relationship readings, I like to see the sun card more than I like to see the lovers, because I think the lovers can mean ambivalence or hesitation, as well as partnership. And the sun, I think, is you're out having a fantastically wonderful time in the warmth, and you're sharing that day together. And the wall in the background also creates a sense of security and even privacy between, for the two of you. And so that is awesome to see there. Um, One other thing to note that I notice here down on the bottom row is the way in which, we only got one court card in the spread, and it's the King of Cups, right? But the King of Cups is looking beyond cups, beyond this relationship or emotional challenge that they are facing. And beyond that is the star. And so, one way we could read that is sort of metaphorically as the star being about needing guidance and needing release and to be open and to, instead of like sitting up high and being a king, to sort of let those emotions out. And I think that makes a lot of sense in this reading, that this person's challenge is to, it's not that they need to connect with their emotions, they are connected with their emotions. It's just that they're hiding them from the rest of the world, right? And so this star card is sort of like, you know, take off the masks and open up and be generous and forthright with how you really feel and who you really are, right? And that's sort of the challenge. So with this person, they might seem kind of guarded at first, like they're not opening up to you. Or if they are, it feels like you're maybe not getting the whole story, or like they're not they're not telling you the real truth that's like really deep down in them. And of course, when you first meet anyone, nobody's going to do that unless they're a totally open book. But that is something to consider about this King of Cups. I think of him very much as a kind of diplomat, a diplomatic person, meaning he knows the truth, but he also knows what to say to make the situation um, go in the way that he wants it to go, right? And so it's not like he's lying. I don't think of the King of Cups as a liar, but it's someone who um, you're going to have to get to know him pretty well before he's going to open up um, into like his deep emotions, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's, I think, I hope, a pretty good description of this. Let me just look at the chat here. Cool. Yeah, so, it's someone who will have gone through some troubled times with this tower, and that's maybe upsetting their security, their resources. And now, of course, that could also be contributing a little to the emotional trouble, right? Like he might be, or she, or whatever gender they are. This person might be, understandably upset about the trouble that they've been through. But everything in the right column, the sun and the star especially, and 3 coins isn't bad. 3 coins is something can be growing or taking shape again, but it may not be stable at the moment. But seeing it surrounded by the sun and the star, those are wonderful cards to be sandwiched in between. And so I'd say the future looks very bright for this person. Okay, so that is Sanja's reading. Let me take a look through the chat here and see what I see. And hi for anyone who might be joining. My name is Will, and I've been doing some tarot readings today. Hi, the Storytime Kitchen. I can add you to the list. And Anne's Human, I'll add you. Exogene, I'll add you. And Swarse Love, I'll add you. Okay. And so João Pedro Costa, I know I had you there at the first, and I don't know why your question didn't. I'm not seeing it in the chat, but if you can post it again, I don't know why I wouldn't see it as a chat here. So that was Sanjit. So B, you are next, I believe. B wants to know, how does G feel about the message I sent him on Facebook last week? Okay. And everyone, I'm just shuffling off camera only because it shakes the table, and this, oh, Jean has a suggestion for me. Let me see. Am I not seeing all messages? Oh, I'm not. Thank you, Jean. That's why I didn't see it. Okay. So, I'm shuffling off table today because, not because I'm trying to hide anything, but because the it shakes the table, and these cards are particularly tough to shuffle. I do really like them, but it is a deck that is harder to shuffle than some of my others, and so that's why I'll overhand shuffle on camera so that you can see that I'm not like stacking the deck. But for the riffle shuffle, I'm just doing it off camera, just so you know what's going on. Okay, so João Pedro Costa, I understand now why I didn't see your question. I apologize. And I see your question now. So B, if it's not too upsetting to you, I'm going to go back and read for João Pedro Costa because they did request a reading first, and it was my fault that I missed their question. And so the question there is a boy from my job sexually attracted to me? Okay, let's see. Okay, so let's see. Is a boy from my job attracted to me? Okay, let's see what we see. Okay, so there's something here. Center of the spread, we've got Ace of Cups, and that's about new potentials in relationships. I mean, that's can be about. Um, and so if we look at like the spine of the reading, this diagonal line, 4 batons, this is about, in the context of your question, stability and security, particularly in the workplace, that then is being maybe interrupted, we might say, by this new interest and a desire to move forward with it, right? With the chariot, that's about driving and moving forward, progressing, making things progress. But the issue is that this person's concern is so much with their stability at work that they know they have a very difficult choice to make, right? Because if they get involved with someone from work, it can wreck this stability represented in the 4 of batons. And so it seems like what they're trying to do here, seeing the death card, is cut this out, right? Like they're trying to almost fight with themselves or engage in a conflict with themselves to not do anything about this. And it has particularly to do, I think, with their financial situation, because we see the 3 of coins and the 6 of coins. And so the money's doubled, right? And 3 of coins is like not quite enough money. It's like not totally unstable, and it's growing and it's getting better. And 6 means, in my interpretation, is like the path towards success, material and financial success. And so there's a contrast here, or a contradiction here, where this person is like, has this stable job and is happy with it, feels attraction towards someone, but is not doing anything about it because what they need to worry about is keeping that job, right? And making sure that that job is steady and everything, right? One thing I will add is, well, there's actually 2 things that I want to add, but one of them is specifically about sexual attraction. But the cups I'm seeing actually don't make me think so much of sexual attraction so much as it makes me think of more like an emotional attraction, right? We've got the Ace of Cups and the 6 of Cups. And so that makes me, I mean, not that there's nothing sexual about the cups, but I would expect more wands. And we have the wands here, but they're just up in the left-hand corner, sort of setting the tone for the rest of the reading. Um, and, they are present, and so I wouldn't discount them. And reading them in terms of sexuality, I think that it would say, to the extent that it's a sexual attraction, it's at kind of a stalemate, right? It's kind of blocked. I read the 4 as like reached a point where it's not going anywhere else, right? But I think that's due to the context of it being a work situation. The last thing I see is the fact that there's a tower, the tower sitting down here, right? And of course, this can mean that this is someone who in the past has had some kind of major upheaval, like, I don't know, maybe they were fired from another job, or they had a housing situation. But it can also just mean that there's something very fragile. Tower, I think of almost like a Jenga tower, if you've played that game with the little wooden blocks, right? Like if you just pull out one block, the whole thing can come crashing down. And so I'm thinking here that this is more referring to like the work situation, and getting involved romantically or sexually with someone at work could make this whole thing fall apart. And that would go against this person's interest in improving their material and financial security. So I could look at other things in this spread if we have lingering questions, but that's what I see looking here. So if you have any follow-up questions, João Pedro Costa, I can answer them. But that's kind of so the answer to your question, I think, is yes, but I'm not sure that it's specifically a sexual attraction. I will say too, it is possible with the bottom row here to read this bottom row as this could be someone who is on the rebound from someone else. And I say that because the tower situation could indicate a relationship that has fallen apart, because we see the two people. They're small here, but there are two figures, two humanoid figures here, who've fallen out of the tower, right? And the Six of Cups can indicate something from the past, like a relationship from the past. And then here we have the figure that I think is most clearly representing this person who's like trying to move forward, but see, they're looking to the past. They're looking at this thing that's happened before. So while there is this potential for a relationship that they're noticing in their workplace, in addition to the issues with the fact that it's at the workplace, there may also be an issue with a breakup or another previous partner. Okay. So I hope that gives you some insight into this person to say your answer sort of yes, but is the answer to the question. And there's two buts there. One is the fact that it's at the workplace, and the other is that there could be this other relationship that is still not, even though it's probably over or like fell apart, emotionally, it may not be over, if that makes sense, right? Okay, so let me look at my list now. B, of course, is next. And so I'm going to read for B now. And if there's any follow-up questions on this spread, I can answer them before I clean it up. And for anyone who might just be joining, my name is Will, and I'm doing some live tarot readings today. My list is pretty full at the moment, so I'm probably not going to add any right now, but I may later if I have to skip over people for any reason. But I don't want to like commit to doing readings and then run out of time and not be able to do them. So the list as it stands now is B, and then Sunshine Pattern, then the Storytime Kitchen, followed by Anne's Human, Exogene, and Swarcy Love. So B wants to know, how does G feel about the message I sent him on Facebook last week? So I'm going to read for that. And am I remembering correctly that I maybe read on this at a previous time, which is fine. I just want to sort of remind myself the context. Okay, so I read on the person, but this is a different message. Okay, and can you remind me, was this a friend or is this a romantic interest? I can't remember. An X. Okay, got it. All right. So I've riffle shuffled several times. Let's see. How does G feel about the message B sent on Facebook last week? There's our Six of Cups again. And the Tower again. Okay, so first thing I'll say is we've a lot of swords down the middle, and they're all increasing. 5, 8, 10. We've got a couple of sevens down here at the bottom, coins and cups, and we've got the Tower. And so those all sort of pop out to me as cards that probably indicate he doesn't feel super great about it, at least at the moment. So the Six of Cups in the top left corner here is what represents the fact that you two were in a relationship in the past, right? As I said a moment ago, the Six of Cups can represent past relationships, right? Feelings from the past, emotions from the past. And so those Six of Cups, though, in the present come in appearing as 8 swords, which is like thinking troubled thoughts. It can also mean communication in a way that can be upsetting, right? Or even it can even mean groups of people that are interfering, right? That kind of thing. And they lead to 7 cups, which while it is one more cup, sevens in my reading, in my system, are challenges or troubles, right? And so 7 of cups traditionally can be a card of like a troubled heart, right? So there's sort of a basic answer to the question, even just looking at those 3 cards in the spine of the reading. Which is that he's kind of troubled by the message, right? Now, you didn't tell me what the message was or what it was about or anything, but the reaction seems like not super positive, if that makes sense. He might also be feeling a little bit like it could be a risk to engage, a risk for his heart, and like metaphorically, a risk for his emotions. And so, like, if we look at the corners, the relationship of the past is sort of tugging on his leg with this little tentacle here that we see in this deck, making him feel like this is an emotional risk to engage again. And he could also be feeling foolish. He could be feeling like either something he did was foolish, or that he feels like he was made a fool by something that someone else did, right? It's also not just that his heart is sort of challenged by the message that you sent. It's like he already had troubled thoughts. The message, I think, made the thoughts hit his heart, if that makes sense, because the 7 coins turn into 7 cups, right? It could also we could also read this as something dense and hard coins become soft and more flowing, but in a way that is an obstacle because they're sevens. It's not like they're aces or twos or something. It's a very odd number, the 7. So the other thing I would look at is to identify the interior structure of how he's feeling. I'm assume it's a he. If it's not a he, I apologize. Which is like there's some kind of chaos or instability with the 5 of Swords, and he feels lonely, I think, with the Hermit, and maybe like he's trying to understand what happened in the past, given that the Hermit is in the farthest left column. And he's very fragile at the moment, which is sort of reaching its tipping point. The Tower with the 10 of Swords is like, this is the message could break him would be a way of putting it, right? Like that last Jenga piece getting pulled out with all these 10 swords. Yeah, so I think he's kind of upset would be a way to put it. And I'm just looking at the chat where you say that he resigned from work and it was a message to let him know I'm there if he wants to talk. Oh, he resigned from work. Well, that would explain also the 7 of coins. I read them as his mind a moment ago, but he could also be experiencing money trouble, of course. That's the most basic meaning in the Marseille Tarot of 7 of coins. And he did something foolish. Well, there's, yeah. So, yeah, I think he's going through a really rough time at the moment. I mean, the center column represents his present, and it's all swords. And so swords are trouble and challenges. And when we've got swords, it means we need to fight and we need to defend ourselves, right? So this is not an easy time. And they're increasing, because I would read these from top to bottom, 5, 8, 10. And so they're like incrementally things are getting tougher for him. Yeah. And it's sort of like, unfortunately, reading the rightmost column, there's going to be no choice but to like start over, which means everything he's built up for himself is going to have to fall apart, right? Which is going to be upsetting. But when we see the tower, it's like the tower has to fall. This is cliche, but like the tower has to fall so that you can get back down to the foundation and build a stronger foundation so that then you can build something that hopefully won't fall or won't fall as quickly, right? Something sturdier. So, yeah, so, I think it's probably the kind of thing where like with all of the other tough stuff that's going on in this person's life, unfortunately, I'm not sure that the message that you sent was able to like help. Although I would also say that I think it's likely all of the bad stuff in here is not just because of your message, if that makes sense, right? If that were true, I think we would see one of the pages in the reading, like particularly if I saw the Page of Swords, I would think that your message, because I think of pages as messengers, right? And so the Page of Swords is the messenger with a sword who's there to poke you. That might make me think more like your message is what knocked the tower down, so to speak. But I don't see that. So I think it's a combination of other things going on in this person's life. Okay, so if sunshine pattern is here, then sunshine pattern is next. You're welcome, B. Happy to do it. And so the list right now is first sunshine pattern, then the Storytime Kitchen, followed by Anne's Human, Exogene, and Swarse Love. So I'm going to see if I might already have a question from Sunshine Pattern. I don't think I see one. So if Sunshine Pattern is here, they can post their question. And if Sunshine Pattern is not here, then the Storytime Kitchen is next. So the Storytime chicken, the Storytime Kitchen, you can post your question if you're here. Well, if Sunshine Pattern and the Storytime Kitchen are not here, then Anne's Human, you're next. So go ahead, Anne's Human, you can post your question. Okay, so Anne's Human wants to know what kind of girl is coming into my life in 2026. Okay, so I assume you are single and you are looking for a relationship. So let me shuffle one more time and we will lay out some cards. All right, these are good and shuffled. Okay, let's see. Knight of Coins. Five Swords. The Star. Page of Cups, Ace of Swords, Eight of Swords, Five Batons. Ooh. High Priestess with the star. And 10 of Swords. Wow, this is really interesting. The first thing that jumps out at me is number one, the Knight of Coins, which I'm reading as you, Anshuman. And then the star, which knights to the High Priestess and the Page of Cups. And so, like, I think that those three cards are telling us, I think, the most information about what kind of person she is. And then all the pip cards, the batons, and all of these swords, which are a little alarming. Let's see, we've got 4 swords cards, so almost half the spread is swords. I think those are probably telling us about her context, like what's going on with her life at the moment. And so here you are as the Knight of Coins, and I think sometimes of the Knight of Coins is kind of like a soldier. There's someone who's really good at planning. They're good at soldiering on. They're good at doing what needs to get done every day. They're reliable. They're secure. They do their work. And they have a goal, right? There's something important to them that they are going after, and they might be kind of slow to get to it, but they're making things develop in their direction, right? And so that's what I see as the card representing you, right? And then the first one up we have representing this other person is the star, which is about generosity, someone who's very giving, someone who's very open, someone who is not putting up they don't put armor on, they don't hide things from others. They're like, this is who I am, take it or leave it, right? They're faithful, they're someone who inspires hope, and they're very open and giving kind of people. And so we love to see that. I worry a little that with all the swords around this person, like she might need some armor, right? She's not wearing, the star card doesn't wear anything, right? I mean, there's no nudity in this deck, but she doesn't have like a shield. She doesn't have a helmet on, right? Like she's just her. And so it's someone who might be in a kind of vulnerable place where, because they're so generous and open and giving, all of these swords can really do harm, right? And so the circumstances that this person is facing in their life, it's not to say that it's like their fault, but it's because they're the kind of person who's more interested in being genuine than in being safe, if that makes sense, right? And so that opens them up, because they're such a genuine, open person, it opens them up to getting hurt. And seeing all the swords makes me think that that is something that they are likely going to be facing when you encounter this person, right? So I think it's also going to be someone with the Page of Cups, because when I do tarot, I also kind of teach. I sort of can't help it. And so, for those of you who may not know, when you look at what cards knight another one, you move like you would in chess. So you move down, or in one direction 2 cards, and then in another direction 1 card, right? And so the 2 cards that the star knights are the High Priestess and the Page of Cups, because we can go 2 and 1, and we can go 2 and 1, right? And so I'm sort of reading the star, the Page of Cups, and the High Priestess as like those 3 cards represent this person. And so if we look at the Page of Cups, it would indicate someone who is maybe still trying to figure out, number one, how relationships work for them. right? Like they might be kind of still navigating the world of relationships. And number two, they may not be totally emotionally mature yet, right? The Page of Cups is someone who's still trying to figure out who they are as a person in a relationship and who they are in terms of their emotions, right? And so this could be someone who is occasionally emotionally volatile, right? Like their emotions may not be as regulated as, if we saw, for example, the Queen of Cups here, right? And it's not a queen, it's the page, right? And so this is someone who can be hurt, emotionally hurt fairly easily, right? If you think of like the stereotype would be like an oversensitive child where you just say one little criticism and they just fall to pieces, right? Because they can't handle any criticism at all. And so that's an exaggeration, right? But that might be one facet of this person's personality is that they might be a little bit emotionally, um, well, I guess insecure might be a way to put it, right? And then the other card that the star knights to is the High Priestess. And so with the High Priestess, this is someone who is learning, studying, could be a student, um, right? Like an adult student, like a college or university student. Or if not actually a student, just someone who is interested in, this is the High Priestess has her book, right? And so I always think of someone who's reading or studying or writing. Who's like keeping a record of something or jotting things down or journaling, that kind of stuff. And it can also be with the High Priestess someone who maybe has non traditional beliefs. Like the High Priestess can be a tarot reader, for example, right? Someone who's reading, but not necessarily something that's traditionally acknowledged as being worth reading. So it could be someone who is, maybe more spiritually inclined or esoterically inclined. That kind of thing is possible as well with that card. So the other cards in the spread are all the pips cards, all of these swords, and the 5 of batons over here. The 2 5s of swords and batons, and the 5 of swords knights to the 5 of batons. So it could be someone who's having instability with regard to their workplace or with some project that they're working on that's causing strife, that's causing competition, and then that's really making some chaos in their life. With the Ace of Swords in the middle of the spread, this could be someone who has a very big decision that they're having to make. I think of Ace of Swords is often a decision. And what's sort of coming for them with the Star, 8, and 10 of Swords, they may be someone who's experiencing quite a lot of anxiety or negative thoughts with the 8 of Swords. This could be in response to a toxic environment. The first thought I have is a work environment because we've got the 5 of batons, which knights to the 8 of Swords. So she could be someone who's like having a lot of chaos at work due to the work environment, and that it's leading her to like being exhausted with it and feeling like she needs to put an end to it. So I think this is a really interesting, good person who is open and generous, perhaps to a fault, and still has a lot to learn about relationships and how to regulate their emotions, right? And this person's in a not a great situation at the moment, which may have to do with work. Or if it's not work, it could be school, right? Because it's whatever they're putting their effort into with the 5 of batons. Whatever they're putting their effort turning out the way that they'd hoped. Like the effort they're putting in with the 5 of batons is turning into swords. And so like instead of building something, they get something that's there to like cut things down. And that's probably making them pretty frustrated at the moment. Oh, you're a master's student in English literature. I have a master's in English literature. We have something in common. That's cool. Yeah, so this could be a student in your program, right? Like when I see the High Priestess, Absolutely, that could be a grad student. Absolutely, it could. Yeah. And it would be someone, I mean, maybe this is someone who's struggling with a class or writing a thesis and it's not going as well as one would hope. Yeah, those are the things that come to mind. Okay, let me look at the chat here. And welcome to anyone who might be joining. My name is Will, and I am doing some pre-live tarot readings today. You can take a look at the video description or the, oh, I don't think I ever pinned my first chat. Let me do that. There, it should be pinned now, the pinned message to see how to request a reading, although I may be able to open up the list again in a moment. We'll see if anybody else who I'd added to the list and had to skip over comes back. So the next folks on the list are Exogene and Swarcy Love. And then once I've read for them, I'll go back to the ones I've skipped over and then see if they're here. And then depending on what time it is, I may reopen the list. Okay, so you're very welcome. Yeah, keep an eye out for this person. And, this is someone who you would need to be patient with, I think, because of the Page of Cups and because of the context that they're finding themselves in with all these swords, but who does have a lot to offer with the star there, right? So it's like if you can help this person through their difficult situation, and also if they are willing and able and interested in growing emotionally, I think there's a lot of good potential here, especially once the bad context is finished with. And it will end, right? 10 of Swords is the end of it. It's like it gets as bad as it can get, but then it's over, right? It's not like it will last forever. Okay, so Exogene is next, and I already have a question, which is great, which is, may I ask what eyes, feelings, and intentions and next actions are towards me or anything else? Okay. So let me just shuffle these off the table. And while I'm shuffling, can I ask, I'm assuming this is like a romantic interest. Is that correct? That this I person is someone you're romantically like interested in? Okay, so like a crush and you're hoping it turns into one. Got it. You're professional and talk every day. Okay, so like you work together, or if not together, then you know each other in a professional capacity. Sanja, I don't know. $22.22 on watch and now $22.21. I don't know what that is. I am not super technologically savvy, you guys. The fact that I am able to do live stream at all is like about as far as I can go. And I've had to get help. Okay, so we're currently professional talk every day. What are eyes, feelings, and intentions and next actions towards XO Gene? Four of Swords. Queen of Coins. Page of Swords. 3 coins, Queen of Batons. Knight of Cups, 2 coins, 6 swords, 10 coins. So I'm trying to remember if I think that maybe I've read for you about this person before, and if it's not too much, is there like another person involved? Like, does one of you maybe already have another partner, or am I totally misremembering? And the reason I ask is because whenever I'm doing a spread, especially one like this with 9 cards, and I get lots of courts, I like to try to figure out who the court cards represent. And we've got 2 queens, a knight, and a page. And so, it's possible that these are all representing a single person. But, okay, you don't know if he has another person. Okay. So without even looking at the other 5 cards, we will, but if we just look at, there's like a little portrait of people here, right? And does he have kids, or do you have kids? That would be the other question that would be useful to ask. Because like one way of reading this is that we've got a guy, Knight of Cups, and 2 women, Queen of Coins and Queen of Batons, and a kid, Page of Swords, right? There are other ways of reading it, but that would be a way to start, right? And so the knight, I'm just looking at the chat. Women throw themselves at him, and he told 2 of them that he has a girlfriend, but it might have been to get them off his back. Neither of us have kids, but both want them. Okay, great. Thank you. That clears it up. So I'm just looking at the cards. I think the Knight of Cups represents him because you said women throw themselves at him. That sounds very much like the Knight of Cups situation. And so there is a queen of batons, and these two figures are facing one another. And so this indicates to me that there is an interest, right? That he and another woman are like talking, might be a modern way of saying it, right? But there's also this other person, Queen of Coins, and she's looking to the left and he's looking to the left, and his eyes are almost sort of like if you can see, I know it's kind of small, but his eyes are sort of pointed diagonally up, sort of like the Queen of Batons is looking at the Knight of Cups, and the Knight of Cups is facing the Queen of Batons, but also looking at the Queen of Coins. The Queen of Coins doesn't really seem to be interested in the Knight of Cups. And so the way I would read this is like you're the Queen of Batons and you're interested in this Knight of Cups guy, and he is facing you. So, like, you're on the same page, so to speak. There is a relationship of some kind, although maybe it's just professional. But he also has, like, there's also another person involved, I guess is what I'm saying. But that other person that is in the situation isn't looking at him, right? Like, she's busy over here looking at this pretty coin she has, right? Whatever that is. But it's not him, right? So, like, he's chasing her, but she's not interested in him. And you're interested in him. And he is interested in having some kind of relationship with you. But he's not only looking at you, if that makes sense, right? The Page of Swords that's over here in the corner then, well, it could be another person. I don't think we'd be able to say for certain unless we knew more about this person's life, the Knight of Cups life, right? And so there I would be inclined to think of it more as like his thoughts, right? Because pages are messages and therefore can be thoughts. And so with the Page of Swords, it could be that there's something kind of weighing on him from above and poking at him, right? With the sword, this little sword is like poking at him. So he's got some troubled thoughts, we might say, about what's going on with him in terms of his relationships, right? He's not, I don't think he's settled. He's hesitant, some ambivalence. He's like trying to find out more information. And so it's not like he's made any final decisions, I don't think, about what he wants, so to speak, right? Okay, so now that we've sorted out these court cards, let's look at the rest of the spread. And so we've got a situation in which he maybe has called a kind of truce with himself with the Four of Swords. Like maybe he's almost taking a break from relationships because he's like feeling hesitant and not sure that he's ready to start a new one. And maybe he's also overthinking things too much with the 10 of coins. Or it could be that he's more focused right now on improving his material financial success, right? Like maybe he's so focused on work at the moment that relationships just aren't the main concern for him. Because there is quite a bit here suggesting he is focused on practical goals, right? As opposed to, well, relationships, right? And so with the 3 of coins, 2 of coins, 10 of coins, it's like he's been working on juggling his finances and growing them, and he's succeeding at that. That is working out for him because we've got the 10 of coins down here in the lower right corner. And so one thing that I think is important to this person is long-term financial and material stability and success. And so it could be that he's prioritizing that more than looking for someone to date right at the moment. Because, for example, I don't see any cups other than the fact that he is the Knight of Cups. And so that would suggest this is someone who does desire to have a romantic, fulfilling, emotional relationship. But that doesn't mean he's doing it right now, right? There's no other cards in the spread that would indicate. It's almost like right now he sort of has to go against his own nature a little bit and be a little more focused on material things and resources and money and practicality rather than love, right? That would be another way to put it. Let me take a sip of tea. So, I'm just looking at, it's interesting me the fact that the Six of Swords, Knights to the Four of Swords, and the Page of Swords, because I think there's something going on where some choice that he's made or is about to make is maybe like leading him down the wrong path, or he thinks it's the wrong path, but it ends up being successful. And the way in which it could be the right path is like, I think what might be happening is he's choosing security and stability in life, which he's getting, but he's having to adapt himself in ways that are maybe not super good for him, if that makes sense. So like he's prioritizing security, stability, money, resources, which is understandable. I can see why someone would do that. I mean, I do that too sometimes. But in doing that, he might be sort of going off track from what really matters to him, especially if he's showing up as the Knight of Cups, which is, love, right? I think that is the central conflict or contradiction that I see, is a conflict between like the heart and the purse, right? The heart and the money. That seems to be the central conflict here. The other tension is perhaps that if there is another person involved, represented, I think, by the Queen of Coins, that he may be distracted by her shiny coin that catches the light and glimmers and is very beautiful, and also represents the stability and security that he is so invested in, that he may sort of be drawn to this person, even though I'm not at all sure that she even notices who he is, right? And so you say in the chat, you told Spirit, if the Ten of Pentacles doesn't come out, you won't accept the reading as being romantic. And it came out, yes. It came out, and it is the last card in the spread. So it's like the outcome card, right? It carries a certain amount of weight, given that it shows up in that 9th position. Okay, so I need to go back to your question, right? Because I think I've kind of answered it, but have I answered it? You asked, what were his feelings and intentions and next actions towards you? Okay, so, I mean, he has feelings. He's the Knight of Cups, and he's looking right at you, or at least he's facing you, right? I don't think he knows what his intentions are. I think that he's hesitant to do anything, with this Page of Swords sort of representing his thoughts sitting on top of him, weighing down on him. I think he's kind of divided. He feels like he needs more information. I think of the page sometimes, Page of Swords, as a kind of detective, right? Like they want to figure out everything before any action is taken. And so I don't think he knows. And it's also interesting to see that like the spread ends there, and there's no more, like it's not like either of these figures are facing outside of the spread. If they were facing the other direction, I might place a card next to them to see like what are they looking at. when they're not looking forward, they're looking this way, and so there's no reason to place an extra card, because I think that this cards are already answering the question, which is, um, he hasn't decided, like, what his intentions are, right? Or what his actions are going to be beyond, continuing to have the same kind of relationship with you I think that he has already had, which is like, he's offering out a cup of coffee, um, but maybe not just to you, right? Like I get the sense that if the Queen of Coins was like, sure, I'll go have a cup of coffee, that he'd be receptive to that. But lucky for you, she doesn't know that he exists. Like she doesn't care. Right. I think it's very important the way the figures are facing, in the tarot, and whether they're looking at each other or away from each other, right? Like, if these figures, for example, just to show you, like, had I seen this, had the card shown up like this, if this is you and this is him and you're looking away from each other, I'd say, oh, well, he doesn't want anything to do with you, right? That's what I would have said. But that's not what came up, right? They came up this way. And so he does want something to do with you. He's open to continuing the relationship. But seeing these cards surrounded all by swords and coins tells me, it's not like, if I'd seen Ace of Cups, Two of Cups, Six of Cups, the Lovers, the Sun, any of those cards might make me think like, oh, he wants to like date you, right? But that's not what I see there. So you want to know what's at the bottom of the deck? Sure. Bottom of the deck is Wheel of Fortune. And so Wheel of Fortune here makes me think like this is a cycle of him like figuring himself out. And so you kind of just have to wait, right? Like time will need to pass. The wheel of time will need to turn some more. Okay. So you always get the Wheel of Fortune, and here it is again. Yeah. I think of Wheel of Fortune as like, things come up, things come down. It's rolling, it's a cycle, things are moving forward. If you're not getting what you want right now, you have to wait, right? And the wheel will turn and something else will come. Yeah. So next on my list is Swarsilove, I believe. You're welcome, Jean. Okay, and I see Swarsilove actually posted a question earlier. Actually, two questions. And so I think I'm only going to have time for one of these. So I'm going to take the first one, which is, will I fully heal from the pain, heartbreak, that if it'll hurt me so deeply? Okay. I'm just going to shuffle off camera and then I'll pull some cards. Okay, will I fully heal from the pain and heartbreak that Ifil hurt me so deeply? That is the question for Swarsilov. Here we go. Knight of Swords, 8 coins, 6 cups, 3 cups, 2 coins, King of Swords, the Lovers, the Hanged Man, and 6 batons. Okay. So the short answer to your question, I believe, is going to be yes, though it's going to require you to do a lot of work. It's not like the healing will happen automatically, right? And I say that because if we look at the diagonal cards, 159, Knight of Swords is you going off on, knights go on quests, right? So it's almost like you've had to go off fighting on a quest to defend and protect yourself, right, with your sword, which has required 2 of coins that you make a decision, that you make a choice about your well-being, right? What's going to be the right thing for you. And this is the kind of thing that you may really be weighing the options, right? Like, how am I going to get through this, right? Like with the 2 of coins, I think of juggling a lot, right? Like, how do I keep both of these things sort of in the air, right? Leading to 6 batons, and 6 batons, I would read here as a path of progress where there is pressure, or as you put it in your question, like pain, right? But that it will respond to effort, right? So, like, if you put in effort to heal, right, it will work. 6s, I think of in terms of harmony, it's a perfect number. And so it's about getting results from something, but it's over time, right? It's not, it's there. 6s are paths. And so, something from the past has to then carry through to the present, and then you'll get a result in the future. But it doesn't just come from nowhere. And with batons, I do think of effort and work and putting putting energy into it, exercising your skills and your power into healing, so to speak. So yes, that's the short answer to your question is yes. We can look at the spread in a couple different ways to draw out some more details, but that's the straightforward answer to the question, right? And so we could look, for example, at the corners of the spread with the Knight of Swords, where you're setting off on engaging in some kind of conflict and moving forward in a good path that has to do with this relationship, I think. I guess maybe I'm assuming things. I assume you were in a relationship with this person of some kind. Um, and that all of the cups, looking at the corners, turn into batons, 6 to 6. And so, like, everything that was pleasurable about it turns into, well, now I have to do work about it. And with the Lovers, uh, in the Marseille Tarot, as opposed to Rider-Waite-Smith, this card, I think, is very much more about hesitation and ambivalence than it is about just a wonderful, lovely, happy, harmonious partnership. It can sometimes mean that in the Marseille Tarot, although I usually think that's more the Sun in the Marseille Tarot, right? If we look at the inner structure of the situation, we get 8 coins, which is about being cautious and prudent and maybe taking things slow and not wanting to take risks in life at the moment because of some past relationship situation in which things were growing, but then were cut down so that they didn't move forward anymore. And so maybe you feel like you sacrificed a lot, or like you had to give something up, or maybe you were the scapegoat in the situation, or that you were punished for something, even though it looked like things were growing and improving, right? Like it looked like there was a relationship that was meaningful and heartfelt beginning to take shape, and that was sort of cut away and cut down by this King of Swords figure. I'm going to lay just one more card because the King of Swords is looking outside the frame, and I want to see what the King of Swords is looking at. And it's 8 cups. So there are a couple ways to read this. It's possible that both of the court cards represent different aspects in time of your personality, right? Like you were a Knight of Swords, but then as time passes and we move to the right, we see that you have become a King of Swords. So that instead of just maybe a little bit unsure of yourself or acting too quickly in the way you engage in conflict with others, you sort of level up to become the king, in which you have complete and full power over how you manage conflict with others, and that this shows itself in your being surrounded by a very good atmosphere. The 8 of Cups I would read here as like lots of good people around. It's a big group, right? This would be like lots of friends and family. It's not just one partner. It's like all the good people around you. The whole atmosphere is good. And so it's almost like you're learning and figuring out how to understand the darkness of the world and how to have power over it in a way that allows a good atmosphere to grow up around you, right? That's the first main way that I would choose to. The only other way to read them is to read each of these court cards as representing a different person, one of them being yourself and the other being this person who hurt you. And it would be tough for me to say which is which in this situation, although I would be inclined in that interpretation to say that you've left behind. I'd need more context to be sure, but like that you, the King of Swords, have left behind this Knight of Swords who kept causing you trouble. And even though there in the top row, which means in some sense they're still exerting some power over you, the rank they have of knight is lower than your rank, which would be king. So that would indicate that while there is still kind of a power struggle that exists between these two, um, especially also because if you see they're facing different directions, one is facing right and one is facing left. Um, so there's still like a connection, a power struggle between the two of them, but that like you're sort of working on leaving it behind, because you talked about healing, right? Eight of Cups would indicate that you are in the process of finding um, the atmosphere of good cheer and happiness and good people around you that will help to facilitate your healing, right? And that if you, as per Six of Batons, if you put an effort to nurture those relationships, they would pay off. Okay, so that was Sorcilove's reading. And okay, so let's see. I see Sunshine Pattern has posted a question here, and they were on the list earlier. So, okay, so Sunshine Pattern wants to know, will G respond to my message? This is a timing, like, will they do it? Yes, no. And then, like, if so, when? Okay, and then before I move on to that, though, Swarse Love says he was the one who had power over me. So the interesting thing when you say that or write that, the interesting thing is reading these as two separate people. Strictly speaking, like if I had laid the cards out just in a line and we would have knight and king, the king outranks the knight. And so, yes, the king has more power, right? When we see them laid in the box spread, though, there's a question of like levels where one card can appear over below another card. And so if the king were above the knight, it would show a pretty clear, like, one person has all the power here. They're the king and they're on top, so to speak, in the spread. But when we see the knight above the king, I think like there's a way in which the hierarchy is a little inverted. I don't know if that's helpful. Like the knight is above physically in space as they're laid out. The knight is above the king, even though they rank below them, right? Okay, so Sunshine Pattern. Will G respond to the message? Okay, so for timing questions, I like to build the timing into the question. That method has worked best for me. And so I assume you've sent the message recently. Should we say in a week? Does that seem about right? Okay, and then Yes, a week sounds good. Okay, good. So then we've got that set up. Swarcy Love says, so the King of Swords is me in the future. Sorry, a little confused. Yeah, I think it is. Right? I think like it's a possible future, right? I would never say it's certain or that it's fated or that there's no way to change. But like I would read it as if you are able to make choices that allow you to build good relationships with others, not just one person, but with the Eight of Cups, with like lots of people, uh, that it will put you in a position that elevates you, so to speak, and um, allows you to have more power over conflicts that may arise for you in the future, right? There is a sense with all of the court cards from the Suit of Swords that they are kind of preoccupied with conflict, right? And so that makes sense given, it sounds like you were hurt in the past by this person, right? And so conflict is relevant. But the thing about the Swords court cards is not only can they um, fight, right? They can defend themselves, right? So it's like making choices with the Two of Coins to put in effort in relationships with the Six of Batons will allow you um, to defend yourself better, right? And then to form relationships that are more fulfilling with others in the future. Okay, so for Sunshine Pattern, the question is, will G respond to their message, to Sunshine Pattern's message, in about a week, within a week's time frame? Okay, I'm going to shuffle. And welcome to anyone who might be joining. My name is Will of the Hermit's Lantern Tarot, and I've been doing some free readings here today. I am probably getting kind of close to the end of the live stream. I need to eat lunch and go to work. But let's do Sunshine Patterns. Okay. Oh, okay. Let's see. Maybe I should ask if he will contact me again in the month of December. Okay, let's do that. So like, is this person are you going to be in any communication with this person between now and the end of December, end of the year? Because it's been 2 days. You're not sure he'll respond, but he might. Okay. So we'll set the timing to end of December. So end of 2025. Okay. Ace of Swords. Lovers. Queen of Batons. 5 coins. Page of coins. There's a message. Ace of coins. 9 swords. Magician. Ooh. And 9 cups. Let's look at this for a moment. I think the answer is pretty clearly yes, that you're going to hear from this person. Because the first thing I would do is read the spine, these 3 cards, 1, 5, 9. Ace of Swords, I would read as making a decision, right? To send a message. Pages are about messages, right? And like 9 of Cups, and you would get your wish, right? Traditionally, the 9 of Cups or 9 of Hearts is the wish card. And so traditionally, they say that if it appears in the spread, you will get your wish. And so, assuming you want to hear from this person, I'm thinking that yes, you would hear from them. I'm just looking at a couple of other things. There's a lot that's showing up here. So like I'm reading you as the Queen of Batons. The page is the message. The Magician I'm seeing as this other person, right? Because the message is above their head, right? Like in their head, and they're sending it out. I don't know the context between the two of you, but it's interesting that you're looking in separate directions. So the Magician is looking to the left, Queen of Batons is looking to the right, and I think I'll want to pull a card in a minute to see what she's looking at. But so did something happen between the two of you that like changed things for the worse in your relationship? Because with the Magician looking at the 9 of Swords is, something not great, I think, happened. And this person is still maybe kind of fixated on it, if that's possible. And maybe it had to do with some uncertainty or hesitation that they had regarding the the potential of your relationship or the practicality of your relationship. I say that because 9 of Swords, Knights to Lovers, and Ace of Coins. And so it makes me think like this person is looking back at 9 swords, and what are the 9 swords about? Well, they're about these 2 cards. So they're about ambivalence or uncertainty or having to make a choice, having to do with the Ace of Coins, which is the potential practicality of the relationship, although it can also traditionally, Ace of Coins or Ace of Diamonds can be a diamond ring. If there's anything to do with a diamond ring, it could, or, like a wedding ring, that kind of thing. Although that's a stretch, and I think the traditional meanings of cards can be, like the old folk meanings can be fun, but they're not always accurate, especially in our modern lives. Yeah, so that's one thing that I notice. I notice the way that the 5 of Coins, Page of Coins, Ace of Coins is telling me that this person is facing right now a situation in which maybe there's some instability in their mind at the moment. Like they're not super focused, but they are becoming focused. Right, like the 5 moving to the 1, I think is like all these little 5 coins. Think of those as lots of thoughts or ideas, contract down into one pinpoint of a big coin, where it's like this person is unfocused, but is becoming more focused. And, as that happens, they'll be able to send this message. So they may be distracted by things, and that may be part of why you haven't heard back from them yet. The movement of the spread overall is one in which instability and some growing trouble or conflict sort of gets passed over, right? Like the swords, 5 coins and 9 swords. By the right hand column, we've got Queen of Batons, Ace of Coins, and 9 cups. And so there's a release of tension or a release of pressure that happens in the movement of time, which is good. Let's pull that card for the Queen of Batons. Okay. It's 5 cups. So you know, 5 cups makes me think the first thing that comes to mind is disappointment a little bit. Because the 5 cups are like instability of emotions or chaos of emotions, which isn't always bad, right? Because like if our, for example, love life is boring at 4 cups, then getting a 5th one could be really nice because even though it's uncomfortable and unsettles things, at least it's different, right? 5s, I do think, are challenges that offer opportunities to grow. And so if this other person, represented, I believe, by the magician, while I do think they're going to get focused and send a message before the end of the month, they're also very much focused on whatever went wrong between the two of you. Okay. And so the message you get from them may not be like a 10 of cups message. It may not be like all is happy. There might be a little bit of whatever that message does may sort of challenge your feelings or cause a little bit of instability or chaos with your feelings, right? Or it might be a little disappointing in what you hear. But will you hear? I think the answer, as I said at the beginning, is yes. So, welcome to anyone who might be joining. My name is Will, and I've been doing some live tarot readings. I'm Hermit's Lantern Tarot, and I am getting to the end of my live stream today. I've been going for just about 2 hours, and my voice is a little tired, and I need to move on and do some other things. So, if I didn't get to read for you today, I would love to read for you at some point in the future, and I encourage you to subscribe to the channel so that you can more easily see when I am live streaming. And if I did get to read for you today, then I hope the reading was helpful to you. And thank you for being here and asking your questions and engaging and all of that stuff. I really appreciate it. Yes, sunshine pattern. Timing we set was by end of December. Yeah, so, and with any predictive reading, of course, all things are subject to change. But I would say at like the snapshot that the cards give right now, I would read this as like here this person is, and while they're looking back at the trouble you all went through together, they have it in their mind above them to send a message, Page of Coins, although they're perhaps still some ambivalence about it, like they're not 100% sure they want to send it. But then the the ace here really confirms that there's a message. Traditional meaning of the ace, in addition to the ace of coins, in addition to being a ring, can mean a letter, right? So, like an actual message. So, we've got two cards suggesting a message, one in the present with the lovers, which could make it ambivalent or hesitant, but then seeing the ace of coins right next to it, it's like this little coin, which might get sent out, does get sent out in the future column. So I would fairly confidently say, by the end of the year, end of December, that you would get a message. Yeah. Okay, everyone. Well, thank you so much for sitting here with me today in my virtual tarot parlor and asking your questions. I really enjoy doing these readings. I get a lot out of them, and I just love doing it. And, I read for myself all the time, and that's fun. Or I make up questions and read for imaginary querents, and that's fun. It helps to hone my skills, but there's nothing like reading for an actual person, right? That's how I feel like I'm really going to improve my skills. And so I appreciate all of you, and I really thank you because without you, I wouldn't have any questions to read for, and I really appreciate it. Okay, so that will do it for today. I need to end the stream, but thanks again, and I will look forward to seeing you all next time. Have a great day and have a great rest of your week, too. Bye, everybody.